Hello and welcome to this special Hoops and Dreams QPR podcast. This is part 3 in our countdown of the top 50 QPR players of all time. If you haven't seen the first 2 parts, I recommend you go and check them out. And this time, obviously, we're going to go and past the halfway point in this top 50. So we're getting towards some really big fish now. I'm James, and I'm joined again by Steve and Tony. Thank you both for joining me. And we are getting to some big players. We've got some big discussions to have. I won't go over again how the list was formed, but I just want to repeat, it's not my list, it's not Steve or Tony's list. It's been formed over months of voting on the Hoops and Dreams forum and on Loft for Words forum as well. Hundreds of people have taken part, and this is the list that has been formed that we're counting down. So, number 30 we're starting with. We'll go from 30 down to 21 on this podcast. And number 30 is Clint Hill. And it is someone I genuinely thought would be a lot higher. Before we started doing any of the voting back in January, if I had to put my top 10, I'd have probably thought Clint Hill's going to be in there as a whole. For me, he's number 4. And I am quite surprised he's as low down as 30. Maybe I'm wrong, but he won promotion to the Premier League twice, of course, with QPR. 185 appearances, 5 goals, should have been 6, of course, with that one at Bolton, that was a given. Twice a player of the year in the Premier League when there was people probably earning 10, 20 times what he was earning. I loved Clint Hill. Tony, is there a reason he's 30? Do you think he should be higher?
He could easily be higher, but then if you look up the list of the ones above him, there are some very fine players there as well. Hey, listen, I mean, I'm kind of, I go back to the 70s and whatnot, but I think I love Clint Hill as much as you do. He's just everything that, that makes a guy a kind of legend at a football club. He was a good centre-half. He was a good left-back when he first came, but he was a good centre-half. He got kicked out of the team for expensive signings, got back in because he was just better, and he was, he legend. And then there's also the thing at the playoff final when O'Neill was sent off and old Harry didn't really know what to do. It was Clint Hill that told him, "Take me off. This is what you need to do." And just adds the legend. And I gather he's just got promoted as coach at Stockport, so good on him.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see him back at QPR one day in some capacity, I think. Yeah. Steve, your thoughts?
Yeah, Clint Hill, he was a hero. He epitomised what a captain and a leader should be. My real memory of Clint Hill was always with his fist clenched, getting everyone to play, pushing the team forward when we needed to go forward and making sure they defended when we needed to defend. He was, he was absolutely 100%, and he's what we lack now. We lack that real leader, that cajoler, that person that when the players aren't doing the things they should, he's the guy that tells them what to do and directs them. And sometimes on the pitch, we've missed that in the last few seasons. And he's the type of guy that we need.
Yeah, I suppose the reason he's 30 is because wouldn't it have been amazing if we had him from when he was 17 and he was like an Alan McDonald who was here his whole career or something, because he would have just been amazing to have for his whole career rather than join us when he was like 30 or whatever it was. My only gripe with Clint Hill is why did he let Joey Barton lift the trophy with him on the playoff final? That always annoys me. He should have just been Clint Hill. Oh, that does annoy me to this day. But yeah, number 30, Clint Hill, should have been higher. Number 29 is someone who was about to be 34 when he joined us and is the 4th oldest QPR player ever by the time he made his last appearance in 2007 at the age of 38. And that is Paul Furlong, 183 appearances, 58 goals. He was a bit higher for me. He's number 29, obviously, in the people's rank, but he was 15 for me. An unbelievable striker for his age. It's obviously been discussed a lot recently, the fact that Charlie Austin's had a poorer season and people saying he should retire and he's only about to be 33. To think that Paul Furlong was older than that when he joined us and went on to achieve what he did I think that's
Yeah.
probably why he's so highly thought of. Steve, your thoughts on Paul Furlong?
Yeah, I thought Paul was about right in the list. I had him at number 29 as well, amazingly, in my list. But he had an amazing scoring record. I think he got 58 goals for us in 100 and sort of like 40 odd, 150 odd games, and fantastic again, 1 in 3. As you were saying, at his age when he came in, and we picked him up from Birmingham. Yeah, he was a big bustling striker, and he did us proud when we needed it. He was good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, exactly that. I think he had a bit of a rocky start, didn't he, because of his Chelsea connections or whatever. But yeah, my word. I mean, yeah, you would. And he had that fantastic partnership with Kevin Gallen, the season that we did get promoted out of whatever it was called then, League One. And yeah, I mean, he was. I mean, what a fantastic pro! I mean, he was just brilliant.
Yeah, to still be playing at at the level he was when I think then he scored maybe even towards the end he was still scoring goals with us, and I think he went on and played for Luton, didn't he? After he left us as well, he carried on. Just a testament to the athlete that he was. A super.
Yeah.
Number 29, Paul Furlong, and it's one of his teammates who's in at number 28. Someone who's still heavily linked with QPR jobs and things every time, and that's Gareth Ainsworth. Signed in 2003, instant impact, 2 goals in his debut. Then he went to Ruston and Diamonds and scored those 2 goals. Two people you couldn't wish to score those goals in your career, could you? He scores 2 in half an hour. Overall, it was 152 appearances, 21 goals. I think he even played with a broken leg in one game, didn't he? An absolute hero, a warrior. 2 spells as caretaker. Is his position about right for you, Tony, or would you have him any higher?
Yeah, I think so. Some players are where they are because they were, the most skillful, the highest quality players, and some are kind of, and there are a number also on this list because of who they are. And I wouldn't do him down as a player. He was a fine player for us as well, but. He was, we talked about kind of Clint Hill being the kind of never say die, and Martin Rowland's another one, and probably even more than anyone, Gareth Ainsworth was like that, and of course he's I mean he's just he's just everything that you want to see playing for your football team.
Yeah, he'd just run through brick walls, wouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
he did. It was that long hair, wouldn't it, running down the pitch, and he really wanted to be a rock star, I think.
Yeah, he did. Well, he has got bad.
Yeah, he's a cult figure at the club, isn't he? Everyone loves him when he comes back, and it's great to see when old players do come back. Some get booed, but the ones that the fans always remember are the ones like him. And he gets a good cheer, and that's great. He's a well-respected person.
Yeah. In fact, I went to a pre-season friendly at Wickham. They played us, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years ago. And he got a huge reception from all the QPR fans. It was just, fantastic.
Yeah, you talk about cult heroes. I think he was probably a cult hero within that one match, wasn't he? With his debut, he scored early on. There's another goal where in the same match, he jinked past a man, scored. The celebration with the guitar arm that he was doing.
Yeah.
He probably could be with the player that the fans fell in love with the quickest in QPR history. To be honest, he is well deserving of his place on the list. Number 28, Gareth Ainsworth. Number 27 is the player with the most appearances for QPR of anybody in the top 50. 14 years at the club. His last game was the 1982 FA Cup final. He got 3 England caps whilst he played for QPR. And that's Ian Gillard with his 484 appearances, 11 goals. I remember doing some research a few years ago when we were leaving players out of cup matches and trying to say, do they really need to miss the cup matches so they can play on the Saturday? And Ian Gillard was someone who stood out when I was looking at the stats, who just played every minute of every match, every season, year after year. And the excuses they get these days, he came across heroically in the stats. Was he heroic on the pitch, Tony?
Yeah, he was a very, very fine player. He was very left-footed, or he looked very left-footed. He was just the way he set himself up. He seemed very left-footed, but he was a good defender. He could go forward. I mean, with Clement and Gillard as two fullbacks, I've never seen a fullback pairing like that. They were both fantastic players. And I was just thinking, 68 to 82. So I probably saw his first game for the club and his last. Not that I'm trying to make out that I'm any older than I am, but yeah. But he was, fantastic servant of the club and a very, very fine fullback. And you don't get England caps for nothing, and he thoroughly deserved and perhaps deserved more.
Yeah.
Was he higher than 27 for you, Steve?
He was, yeah. He was a little bit higher. He was number 20 in my list, but he was the unsung hero of the runners-up, the team that were runner-up in the League One season of 75-76. He was part of the team, and that was just a brilliant team, as Tony has mentioned. Him and Dave Clement in that team, they did jobs that the team needed, and they left the Bowles and the Thomases and the Francis to do all the fancy work. But if you don't have players like Ian Gillard in your team to do the donkey work, and I don't mean that disparagingly, but he did the job that the team needed, and a fantastic player, stalwart of the club. I think he was a youth member, I believe, and just went right the way through the ranks. Brilliant. Yeah, great player.
Yeah. Number 27 there, Ian Gillard. Number 26, someone who had just 1 year less than Ian Gillard's 14 years at the club. Someone who had 13 years at the club, and that's Danny Maddox. A free transfer, who went on to have 354 appearances, 18 goals. Steve, a great defender.
He was a good defender, Danny. Yeah, I had him a bit lower in my list, I have to say. I had him down at number 35. And the one abiding memory that I have about Danny is the crowd always singing he's got a Malteser for a head. And because he had that bald head. And he was good, Danny. He was with us for a fair old few years, and he was a good central defender. I liked him. He was a good, honest, 100% pro. Didn't have him as high as he was voted, but he was a fan's favourite for that bald head of his.
Yeah, he was Mr. Reliable. I mean, obviously he paid 350 odd times for the club, so that kind of says it. He was a really good centre half, and and he just went on and on and on. I didn't realise he was a free transfer. I mean, what a bargain that was.
Yeah, unbelievable. What we could do now with picking up someone for free who goes on to make 354 appearances for us.
Yeah,
amazing.
I think he had a couple of long-term injuries in that spell as well that he was with us. I think he had a couple of nasty injuries and was out for a while. But good player.
Yeah. Number 26, Danny Maddox. Number 25, a Republic of Ireland international, signed from Luton. Went on to Birmingham, helped us to win promotion and then to subsequently fight for the title in 1976. And that's Don Givens. 294 appearances, 101 goals. And that's the highest amount of goals we've had yet on the list. He's only one of 4 different players who've got more than 20 league goals in the last 50 years. So a great striker. Rightly on the list, Steve?
Definitely. Yeah. He was, while Stan got all the headlines, Don just went quietly, through the game and still popped up and scored the goals. He was a tremendous striker. He played a load of games for Republic of Ireland as well, and it showed how good he was at the time. he was, I think he was our leading marksman about 4 times, I believe, lads, and well deserved. Part of that great team.
Yeah, he was a really good player, and and as you say, he was the goal scorer. So I mean, Stan Bowles got quite a lot of goals as well, but Don Gibbons was the out and out goal scorer in that team, and he was one of those players, a bit like Les Ferdinand, that had this ability to kind of hang in the air to score headers. And as I say, he played for the Republic of Ireland, got a hatful of goals for them as well. And I mean, very, very fine player. I'd certainly have expected him to be higher than that. I mean, he was the main goal scorer in our best team ever. So, why is he only number 25?
Yeah, 25, Don Gibbons. And on my notes, I got a question about number 24, which links to what you're saying, because number 24 is our last signing of the 1980s, and it's the player with the lowest number of appearances of anybody in the top 50. So you're following on from someone like you say there, who was a key part of one of our best ever teams. It's Roy Wegerle, 92 appearances, 31 goals. He's in the top half of the top 50, despite those stats. Is there a reason for that, Tony?
Yeah, he was a fantastic player. If he'd stayed with us a bit longer, he'd have been the next. He wore number 10. He'd have been the next number 10. He was outrageously skillful. He scored a lot of goals in was it 1 in 3 or whatever, including that absolutely ridiculous goal up at Leeds, which I don't know. He started off on the touchline near the halfway line and basically beat half the defence, and then great finish. He was a really, really good player, really skillful, and could score goals. And it's a real pity he didn't stay longer, because I'm sure he'd be higher up the list if he had.
You've answered my question there, then, because I'm questioning why. Because it's interesting with the list. Some people have made so many appearances, and then there's others who've made less, but they still are so popular with the fans. And Roy Wegerle is one of them. I mean, I grew up watching a QPR Golden Goals video, and Roy Wegerle was like one of the main people on that. It was all Roy Wegerle specials and dribbling and scoring. And it's just interesting to me to see if he warrants being this high up on the list when you're talking there so fondly about someone like Don Gibbons. Steve, where do you stand on Roy Wegerle?
I thought, again, it was a bit of injustice here. I had him at number 5 on my list. he was brilliant. As Tony said, he was brilliant. The goal against Leeds is probably what he will always be remembered for. What a goal it was. Interestingly, I see it was Rodney Marsh who recommended him to us, and he didn't impress when they first saw him, when he first played. And I believe they didn't take it when they took him on trial. They didn't initially sign him. It wasn't until later. So that was interesting. But what a player! What a player! Another one in the long line of number 10s who were brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So number 24, Roy Wegerle, and number 10, who was brilliant. And now to a number 9, who was brilliant, number 23. Probably going to split a little bit of opinion given what's happened in the last 12 months, but that is Charlie Austin. But he's still in the top half of this top 50. He's still obviously got his legacy intact. 61 goals in 119 starts. He was still incredible. Even in the last season, he never went more than 5 starts without scoring for QPR, and in both spells. I think he was a little bit unlucky in this spell, really, that he didn't start more games and we didn't play to his strengths, I feel. In his first spell, he was Player of the Year, 2014 and 2015. Got 18 goals in a team that finished bottom of the Premier League. For me, he was number 7. I love Charlie Austin. He's played a big role as well in the last year of getting my little boy to support QPR. He loved Charlie Austin, and he's devastated that he's gone. Is his legacy still intact for you, Steve?
Definitely. Always will be, always be regarded as one of the best strikers that we've ever had. And he probably was our best striker since Sir Les. And what a player in that promotion season. Fantastic. he again, he's a leader. He was a leader on the pitch. He did so much more than score goals. And we saw that in the second spell. He was the guy that really turned Dykes really from being he was out of form at the time, and he brought him back into the game, and Dykes and he scored a few goals after, and I think Dykes will appreciate the time that he spent with Charlie, and I think Charlie would have been worth keeping at the club, not as a player, but certainly in a coaching capacity for some of our young strikers. He certainly in that Pomp season, brilliant, outstanding, fantastic striker, deserves his place in the top 50 and probably should be higher in our list than he was.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he has the advantage of everyone can remember him and it's very current, but in terms of kind of out and out goal scorers, he is just amazing. I mean, he, as you said, 18 goals in an absolute rubbish team in the Premier League. If that doesn't prove what he's got, then and I mean, what's happened in the last season has been a bit of a mystery, really, because he came back the second half of last season, and he seemed to be, a real galvanising effect. Steve, you mentioned on Dykes, but just on the team. And is it slight? I mean, I know he's been injured and he hasn't been properly fit and stuff, but it is a bit strange what's happened this season. I don't really get it, and it's a bit of a disappointment that his time here has kind of fizzled out, but that in no way kind of wipes out the legacy of the man.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I said 61 goals in 119 starts. That was right. Overall, it was 63 goals. He got 2 as a sub. 148 games, 63 goals. It's an amazing record, and obviously on our forum we have the prediction league, and I remember in his first spell there's a first goal scorer prediction, and everyone just put Austin every week, Austin, and invariably he would be the first goal scorer, and we've not had a striker like that for many years before, and obviously since. We all hoped it would be the same again this season. It just wasn't to be, was it? But still number 23, and I'm sure he'll be remembered for a long, long time by the fans who've seen him. So they are 23, Charlie Austin. Number 22 is another QPR midfielder who became a manager, the third we've had so far. 5 years as a player, 4 as a manager. We know why he's remembered so fondly as a manager. Why is Terry Venables what made him stand out as a player? 206 games, 22 goals. Do you remember seeing him play at all, Tony?
Yeah, I do. I mean, during his what was it, sort of early 70s. That's what I was there. I remember him well. He was. Well, I mean, first of all, he was a bit of a character. In fact, a bit of a maverick, actually. So obviously fits in well with our club. Because actually, when I did a bit of looking back on some of these players. I assumed that when he joined us, he'd be in his mid-30s or something, because he'd had a career at Chelsea and a career at Spurs. But actually, he was only in his mid-20s, and I think he'd had a bit of a falling out at Spurs. And he fitted right in at Rangers. He was like having a manager on the pitch. So I don't know if he was actually captain, but you said about Sean Derry being captain in all but name. He certainly was that. He was the organizer, and he was a good player as well. But free kick routines, all sorts of innovative stuff, and that kind of carried on when he was a manager. I mean, he was a brilliant manager, very innovative, great ideas, and very forward thinking. And I mean, he was almost as good as a player as he was as a manager.
Yeah, he was inventive, always thinking, always trying to come up with something new. He was ahead of his time, really, in his day, Venables. Tremendous little player. I mean, I think we got him at the time, as Tony was saying, I think he was about 26 when he signed for us. And I think it was in the late 60s. Because I remember I I was only a teenager at the time, but a long time ago. But yeah, he was good. And then when he came back as a manager, he was even better as a manager, wasn't he? He took us to the cup final, and the free kicks and all the other things. He was always thinking. He was always coming up with something new, and you never knew, even as a fan, what tricks he was gonna get the team to perform on the day. So yeah, very inventive chap.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and he was a brilliant manager, and he was. Yeah, he was just brilliant. How often are we going to have a manager poached by Barcelona?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
If that ever happens again, we'll be very happy for him to get poached by Barcelona, because it must mean QPR are doing well.
Yeah, precisely.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, number 22, Terry Venables. And then just outside the top 20 is one of Terry Venables' players from when he was a manager, the FA Cup final captain, who missed the replay. 181 appearances and 18 goals. That's Glenn Roeder. Now he's one of those players that I think is more associated with some other clubs. He made more appearances for other clubs, went on to manage different clubs. But he's at number 21 on this QPR list, so clearly greatly loved still by QPR fans. Is that with good reason, Tony?
Yeah, he was one of my favourite players, actually. I was, what was it? I'd been around 20 when he was playing for us. And he was centre half, but he was outrageously skillful player. So, we talk about Barbets, Diags and all that sort of stuff. But Roeder, he would do that. He'd start attacks with great passes, but he also had the run. He would the number of times he would charge forward, and he had a kind of a shuffle. He had a little trick that he used to do to get past players. I used to love watching him play. He was a good centre half, but he was a centre half who kind of thought he was Stan Bowles or something. And yeah, I loved him. I really loved. He was one of my favourite players.
Yeah, he would have done well today. He was the ball playing centre half, or certainly he thought he was a ball playing centre half. He was because he was our captain in that cup final, and I believe when he left us, he signed for Newcastle to become Gazza's minder. I believe that they took him at the time, and one of the things that he had to do was to guard a young Gaza back in the day. But yeah, an honest player, very good centre half, and yeah, 21 is a fair place for him to be in the list.
Yeah, 21, Glenn Roeder. A nice way to end this, and at the end of part 3. Part 4, we'll be moving on to the top 20, so join us for that. Remember, just try and subscribe to our channel if you can, so you get notified. It helps us to go up our base. All we are is just a free QPR forum, Hoops and Dreams. Join us on there. It's just about getting QPR community together. That's all we want. Everything's free. We have prediction games. Top 20 when you're next with us. Thank you, Steve and Tony, again. Absolutely fantastic. I've been James. This is Hoops and Dreams. Come on, you ours.
Know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.